All right, that's prepped up. Ready to sit on there. And this is all prepped up. Ready to mate up with it. And then we'll get to welding. All right, well, it's just coming together. I've got both sides welded down. Everything's plug welded in. This piece will go on top of this and be welded down to that as a stiffener. And I've got those heavy duty, whatever they're called. It would be spring perches, but just threw this back on there just to double check, because this right here, a lot of people don't see if you're not careful, because the way they tell you, DSC tells you to cut these, you get this gap here. So I'll have to figure out, and I'll probably do that now or within the next week or so, while I got this off, kind of just curve that around and make it look like it's supposed to. Probably bend the flange up or something and just contour it in here somehow. Anyway, I'll get to that. But so here's what I want you to see. You guys know I've been TIG welding, and welding is a big deal to me. And why that is because it's holding your car together. It's super important that you get that right. And so that's why I practice and practice and practice. So I'm going to show you a couple of different welds, and a lot of you guys already know this, but some of you might not. So now you got your plug welds where you're just plug welding that in. That's going to come through the other side. That's going to have good penetration. So those are the plug welds I did, as you can see. But what I want you to see here is, so I stitched. When I say I stitched, I just basically put beads on top of each other. Okay, so let me find one and show you right here. You see the little hole in the top right there? Little hole in the top, little hole in the top. So that's a zzz, zzz, zzz. Okay, so I'm just kind of pulling it up on top of it. All right. Now, you can see this kind of ugly, but anyway. So what you can do is you can stack those. Okay, so you stack them like that. Well, they don't look like the little just stacked up bead at a time. Now, why I'm doing this is because basically I'm just, so using seam sealer in here, I just sealed that off. So this right here is literally just filling a gap. So that's why you would use that, okay? Then you got your big plug welds here, which I probably didn't need to do, but I did. And so this is what I want you to see. This right here, so these are not necessarily, they're not structural, okay? These welds are not, okay? So they're just a filler, basically. I could use silicone bronze, I could use whatever, but yeah, just filling that in, basically all the way around, all the way down, to fill in that gap. But here's what I want you to see. You see the little holes in the top of those? Now this is a DSC part, and I'm not trying to rag on anybody, but if you can see the little hole right there? That's the exact same thing that I did here. Now here's the problem with this, okay? This is holding my arm in, I can't think of what it's called, but anyway, track bar arm, whatever it's called. Anyway, this has got to be strong, okay? And this is a big piece of 1/4-inch steel or whatever, but they literally just buzz, 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 buzz. Now it looks like, it looks pretty because, it looks like they stack dimes or whatever you want to call it, but that is not a strong weld as far as I am concerned. If you're going to weld two pieces of 1/4-inch plate steel together, you need to have a continuous weld. That needs to burn through. I mean, you need to, when you start, you just do your ease all the way down and just keep going. Now you can go 2 or 3 inches and then stop if you want, let it cool. But this is thick enough, you can go probably that whole deal. And that's gonna come through the back side. Now let me show you the back side. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there's no penetration on the back side of that. Okay, so literally the only thing that's holding that plate to this bottom plate is those beads. So just be aware that, like there, they've got some penetration up in the corner. They probably, what they did was they cut that, they bent that down, and then they welded it so it actually got some penetration. So that's probably fairly strong. That, not so much. So when you're welding structural, you want to weld basically like that. That's, like I said, you just take off and you don't stop, okay? That is a blast, 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 and they probably did it all the way down in one pass, which is fine. But in my opinion, that's just not that strong. You really want a good, badass weld on something like that. Like I said, something that's gonna hold it really good. I don't know that I have any other, well, yeah, I do. On my bead roller here. That weld right there, that's what you want. That is a continuous, hellacious, hot, penetrating weld. That's what you're looking for. That's what should have been on that, and it's not. So, which makes me think I might go underneath and grind that back and just go ahead and weld that thing from the underside. This one looks different, like maybe these were done on a different day by a different welder. This one here looks more like they did what I'm talking about, but I could be wrong. They could have just stacked those on top of each other and covered up that little dimple. But you'll see those little dimples, and every so often, if I didn't kind of go up over and cover it, you'll have one of those little dimples. There's like this here, little dimple there. So if I just set these next to each other, they'd all have little dimples in them. Well, I'm not sure that's what they did. Looks like they may have done something better, different there. But that side for sure is not really acceptable in my opinion. I think they did the same thing here. They just stacked them. And those may be strong. They may be plenty strong. I'm not a welding expert, so if anybody out there knows, correct me. TX Viking, if you watch my videos anymore, correct me, tell me, you know, but this is either 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch steel. And that's, I mean, it needs to be welded solid through here. And what I did to, which you can't see anymore, what I did to these and what I did to these, full solid weld. Well, yeah, you can see it too. You can see it on this side. Go back over here. So when I put those down to the frame, which is different than what DSC tells you to do, DSC wants you to put them just to this 20 gauge steel. Well, bullcrap. These need to be strong. So you can see here, I burned that in, just like I did over there. Burned it all the way in, all the way, it's underneath there. That's burned in solid to that frame underneath. So that is legit. Other than this piece right here, I don't really trust those, because you're gonna have your rear end and everything else, and it may be plenty strong for that, I don't know. But I probably am at some point, maybe once I get on rotisserie back over, I can come back in here and grind that away a little bit, bee it out a little bit, and actually do a good solid weld. Then I'll have a weld from each side. But like I said, this is, that ain't cutting it. Like I said, it looks good, but looking good and being strong, whole different animal. And you're doing sheet metal, that's perfect for that. That's what you're after. I mean, you're just zip, 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 you know what I mean? But not for 1/8 inch, quarter inch steel. So anyway, thought I'd throw that at you guys. Just be aware that your welds are literally holding. In this car, there's nothing. This thing, literally, that's 20 gauge sheet metal that's holding you, but from you between the road and you, and that's it. Like, it ain't much. This thing gets into a wreck and it wads up, it's like a tin can. It's gonna wad you up and cut you up and everything else. Ask me how I know. That's why they make these new cars with crumple zones and high strength steel and everything else that they have now. They're so much safer than these. That's why we put roll cages in these and all that. And then you hope you don't get into a wreck. Because again, this is just, that's it. I mean, so be careful. Make sure your welds are good, because you don't want them suckers coming apart, especially if you hit something and they're not welded in there good, man. It's just gonna, it's already gonna just wad up, but you want them to try to hold as much as possible, I guess. And I'm kind of beating a dead horse now, but anyway, you can see I mocked all this up. This is gonna look good. So here, perfect example. That'll be a continuous. I'll V these back really good so I get good penetration in here. I'll get this the same way and just lay a good hot bead in there all the way through, and then that'll be super solid right there. Same underneath. Now here, where I'm gonna come together with the piece of sheet metal, that's where you do these little beads. Just beat, 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 because if you don't, you're likely gonna burn through your sheet metal. So what people tell you to do is basically hit your heavier steel first and just basically pull it over or whatever. But you're still, if you do a solid, you're probably not going to get more than 1.5 inches or 2 inches before you blow through that. So that's a whole different animal than what I'm talking about, your frame. So yeah, anything that's structural needs to be for real, solid, welded, good, not just little tacks. So, and not cold. I've seen so many welds that's just like, oh my gosh, it looks like a dog took a dump and just dragged it across the metal. And it's like, that's not good either. That's cold. That's probably not as good as that even, because at least that's kind of got down into the metal a little bit. The other welds are just sitting on top of the metal. So anyway, that's enough talking about welds for 13 minutes, but just to kind of give you an idea where I'm at and where I'm going. These got to be pulled together a little bit, pinned down, and I can start welding that in and get that done. But that is pretty much there. I've got a little bit more to go. Little stuff here and there. I got to grind some stuff down. And then I got to go underneath the bottom side, which, hindsight, I wasn't thinking about it. I drilled all the holes in the bottom side and not through the top. So you see all those holes. I got to weld that from the bottom, which would have been way better to weld it from the top, but here I am. So I've already made those holes, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and fill them in. So it'll be fine. I'll have the penetration coming through the top of the floor pan. So, all right, guys, that's it. And appreciate you guys watching. This is one too. Put that sucker in there. Hot, continuous weld. That's a structural piece. I threw this big old 345 in here. It's really gonna be, that's too big. I can go in a little bit more. Yeah, probably not. I'll say you might get lucky, but I've only got a few inches here. And once that suspension comes up, I don't know what that would look like. So I think I'm gonna stick with 325 tire-ish, 315, 325. But I got these cheap, so just a mock-up. That's a 19, well, you can see 345 30 ZR19s come off a Corvette, but they look badass. That's a big old footprint right there. But the ones I put on there won't be that much smaller, really, probably maybe an inch-ish. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. All right, so all this is welded up, and except for the middles there, I gotta go underneath and get those, but this here's all done. Got these located, put my rockers on, my wheel wells, make sure everything's lined up right. Got this all tied down tight, hammered everything to make sure it's gonna be a tight, snug fit, especially down this corner. And it's ready to weld. So that's pretty much done. This is ready to weld, floor will be done. Like I said, I just put the rockers on there to make sure everything's gonna sit right and look right. I may run an X pattern across it just to double check the measurements, but it is what it is at this point because I've already welded the whole back of this down. So these are all welded down, ground down. And so, and not sure I'll do those now or if I'll wait until I put my subframe connectors in to do those, but it'd be easier now for sure. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know. But for sure, I'm gonna weld this up today and get that all finalized. And then whatever I need to do underneath to get it snugged up, if I have to cut it and press it up or whatever. But yeah, there you go. Progress. I mean, the bottom's pretty much done. Roll it back under there, drop the car on it, weld the top to the bottom, punch holes in this, weld those, and the car's together. And it ain't coming back apart. So it's pretty good. Took me forever, but here we are. Still got to weld this stuff in here on. Probably got to epoxy that first. This is galvanized, but I'll scuff it and epoxy over top of it. Need to clean this up and shoot some weld through primer on it. But yeah, all this is done. So it's just a matter of putting it together. This is all weld through. So, yep. So, and you guys know how these things go together, so it's not like you're missing out by me not showing you how all this stuff fits together, because there's tons of other guys out there that are putting these things together, and they're all pretty much the same. Got a few other different modifications on this one, but for the most part, it's going to be a Camaro or a Mustang, one or the other. I mean, I don't know. Never can tell. Maybe a Frankenstein by the time I'm done. So, all right, guys, we'll get the welding on that, and we'll be done with the bottom. See ya. All right, good chance I'm going to get in the way, but basically I want to show you. A lot of people say you need to scratch the middle out of that. In my opinion, now maybe if you're doing copper, it's not that big a deal, doesn't seem like. And really, if you're doing the other zinc, if you turn your welder up just a little bit, it'll buzz right through that. And you can see here how flat these are. I just welded that one. I mean, I only have to grind that. It's just super flat. And it's getting good penetration. This is my welder, and I've got it at 6 and 60. And you can listen to it weld, and it doesn't pop, sputter, do all that. It sounds fine. But what I do from me to you is I go from the outside where the bare metal is and roll in all the way around. So start here, strike up on the bear, and then drop down in and just do a circle. And that seems to work pretty good, as you can see there. So I'll hit a couple of these and show you what I'm talking about. Listen to the way it sizzles. That's what you're listening for, really. And then good penetration, obviously. You don't want this lumped up real high. It's just more to grind and just a pain. So now that I said that, let me lump one up real high. All right, here we go. So I'll start out here on the outside and just hit and go in. That simple. Sounded good, flat. Can't beat that. No sputtering. That copper doesn't seem to have too much of a problem. But again, if you turn your welder down to what it says to do for like 20 gauge steel, it will give you a little bit of sputter and it's just not quite hot enough. So just turn your welder up a little bit until, and I would do some coupons or whatever you want to do to get your welder set up before you start doing this. Make sure you got it right before you do it on your actual project. Well, didn't get a good ground on that one. There you go. The next one. Pretty hard to tell, but they're pretty flat. I don't know how to show you that. They look like they're lumped up, but they're really not. Just a little bit. Just a little bit on this edge right here. This one's pretty flat. Kind of maybe. Anyway. And you want your metal together tight. You can see the little bit of light in there. It's squashed down good, so you don't have any gaps. You need to run your screw through there and pull it up. I use these little guys here, as you guys know. So I started in the middle and I welded out. I'm going to go to the other side and go down that side. That way I don't get anything gathering up and doing all that. If you jump around on this, you could end up biting yourself in the butt a little bit. You may end up having to split your panel and do some other stuff. So just chase it all the way to the outside or start on one side and go all the way across. But I started in the middle, I'm coming down, I'm starting in the middle on the other side, go down that way. Did that on this whole thing. Did that side, come over, started in the inside of that and worked my way back out this direction. And you can see it lined up real nice with everything. So, all right, just a couple little tips. I don't know if they'll help you or not, but just something to think about as far as the weld through goes. If you want to scrape it away, it definitely doesn't hurt, but if you just turn your welder up just a little bit hotter, it'll buzz right through it and it'll make that weld lay down nice and flat. So, all right.